Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you the must-have brushes you need in your collection so that you can do any eye look that you want. I have rounded up my most used brushes and I have some staple brushes in here that I cannot wait to show you guys. I have brushes that do the same thing from different brands, so it's not a brand specific video. A lot of brush companies make similar styles of brushes, so I'm basically showing you the 6 brush shapes with which you can do any eye look in my opinion. Before we get started with the video, as always, I want to remind you to please give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, ring the notification bell. I would really love to have you here. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I went through my brush collection. I picked out my most used brushes. I have 5 brushes that I think everybody absolutely needs in their collection in order to be able to do really beautiful eye looks. Then I picked out some brushes that people with different eye shapes would need, and then I picked out 4 brushes that are not a necessity, but if you do get your hands on them, they are helpful to have as well. So let's get started. By the way, if you guys are interested in the look that I'm wearing, I did bring out my Tati palette for it, and this look is going to be in tomorrow's video, so stay tuned for that. Right, so the first brush that absolutely everyone needs is a big fluffy blending brush. I have 5 different ones here to show you. The difference from the ones on the left to the ones on the right is that these have a little bit more of a flatter top to them, and these right here have more of like a domed kind of effect. However, because even though these are domed, they're super big and fluffy, I think that you can use all of these for the same purpose. And the purpose for brushes like these is that you need a big fluffy brush to be able to blend out your crease color, especially if you use transition shades. A big fluffy brush like this one will help you get that diffused look where you go from having like a hot pink on the outer corner and you get it to look gradient all the way to right underneath your eyebrow. So everybody needs a big fluffy brush. I'm going to let you know which ones I have here. This one here is a Sephora collection number 10 brush. I believe this one is discontinued, but I just want you guys to get the idea of the shape of brush that you need. This is a staple in my collection, and this was the first blending brush I ever got, and this is the Sigma E40. Let me show you these two up close because these are very similar to one another. They have a little bit more of a flat top to them, and the flat top really helps to like diffuse really nicely. Then I have these other 3 right here. I believe these 2 are essentially the same brush. These are the Morphe M504 and the JH30. So the one with the white handle is just in the Jaclyn Hill collection, but they're both big fluffy brushes. They're a little more domed, but because they cover such a large surface, they really help you to blend things out in your crease. And then the last one I have here is the Morphe M441, which is, I think, slightly less thick than these 2, but it's also very nice and soft, and it covers a big surface. So all of these brushes are essentially going to do the same thing. I use them interchangeably, and besides using them for crease work and to blend everything out, I can also use it for a base color, just to put a base color all over my eyelid and then go on with a transition shade. Now, I do have an alternative to these brushes for people who have smaller eyes or who don't have a lot of space between their crease and their eyebrows. So if you have smaller eyes, or if you are someone who, not to be confused with hooded eyes. Hooded eyes, if you have a lot of space up here, you still use the big ones. But if you have smaller eyes, or eyes that have a lot of eyelid but not a lot of space between the crease and the eyebrow, these here are alternatives for you. These are the Morphe M513 and the Morphe M505. Let me show you next to the first ones. So these are for people who have more space between their crease and their eyebrow. If you have smaller eyes, you should be using these right here, because they're basically just as nice and fluffy, but they're just going to cover a little bit less surface, so it's not going to make your eyeshadow go over where it needs to go. I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive, I just want to be clear. These right here are going to be used for around the same purpose, but if you have smaller eyes or if you have not as much space between your crease and your eyebrow, I would do these smaller ones instead. So the next brush that everybody needs is another blending brush, but the ones that are pinched. So the first ones I showed you are round, all the way around. They have the same thickness. The second ones I'm going to show you have a different thickness this way rather than this way. So the barrel kind of pinches the hairs on these so that you don't have as much thickness when you put it sideways versus like this. Let me show you guys up close so you can see what I'm talking about. See, sideways it's a lot skinnier than flat. So this brush everybody needs, no matter your eye shape or how big or small your eyes are, everybody could have one of these in their lives for sure. So the first one I ever got was the Sigma one because it came in the same kit. This one is the Sigma E25. I also have a Sephora collection number 27. And then I have some Morphe ones, the Morphe M433 or the Morphe with Jaclyn Hill and the JH33. You guys can see them side by side. They are around the same shape, length. They're about the same softness. And this is the brush that I usually go for when I want to deepen up the outer corner of my eye. I use the flat side to pack eyeshadow on to my outer corner. So I pack it on there, and then with the skinny side, because it's not going to go on as high, I blend my shadows into the crease color that I already blended with the bigger, fluffier brush. So I think a pinched blending brush, that's what I'm going to call them, is definitely essential in everybody's makeup collection, and it'll be really helpful in doing any eye looks. I'm really hoping that this video is making sense. By the way, a lot of different brands make these same type of brushes. I think Morphe brushes or Crown brushes are going to be the most affordable option, but MAC has the same types of brushes, Sephora collection has the same types of brushes, Smith Cosmetics, those are ones that I always hear Samantha Ravindal and Raw Beauty Christie talk about, and I want to try Smith Cosmetic brushes so bad. Sonia G as well has great ones. There's a lot of brush companies out there that make these same brush shapes. Some are going to be a little more durable than others, but I think that as long as you know in which ways you can use the brushes, they're mostly going to perform very similarly for you. For instance, the cheapest brushes I have are going to be my Morphe brushes. I've bought several packs of them. I have a lot of Morphe brushes, and I find that their little hairs are a little like pinchy on my crease when I like blend a lot. They don't feel as soft as some of my other brushes. However, they get the job done, so I still like them and I still use them. I do find them a little pinchier than like Sephora collection or Sigma brushes, just because those have softer hairs, I think, but I can get the same result with all of them. So the third brush type that you need is a flat packing brush. So these are the three that I'm going to show you right here. I have two from Sephora collection, one from Morphe brushes. The one I have from Morphe is the JH51. These are very pinched on the side, and they have a nice round-ish surface on top. So this is the perfect brush to put eyeshadow on your eyelid, pack your eyeshadow on. The ones from Sephora collection that I'm showing you are the number 13 and the number 15. They are very, very similar. The number 13 I think is a bit more densely packed. The number 15 is a little softer, but I use them essentially for the same thing. Whenever I wet a brush with setting spray to make an eyeshadow's shimmer show up more, this is the type of brush that I'm using for my eyelid. Besides these, sometimes I'll use my finger to pack on some eyeshadow on my eyelids because I feel like it brings out the pigment really nicely. But I use this brush when I want to be precise to where my shimmer is. So everyone for sure needs a packing brush, and I thoroughly enjoy using these right here. By the way, I also use this to do my inner corner highlighter. Sometimes because they are flat, I use them to smoke out a shadow underneath my eye as well. There's obviously a lot of different ways in which you can use your brushes, but I wanted to give you guys a basic kind of like brush style that you could go for. So then I have pencil brushes. I'm going to show you some of my favorite ones right here. The first one I ever got was the Sigma. This is the Sigma E30. And to be honest with you, now that I have experienced different ones, I think the Sigma one is one of my least favorite pencil brushes because I don't like how pointed it is. I definitely prefer these three right here. This one is the Morphe E36. I use this one in almost every video. Then I have the JH38, which is just a little bit bigger, and the Charlotte Tilbury Eye Smudger brush. So I usually reach for these brushes when I'm packing on a color underneath my lower lashes. I can sometimes use them for the inner corner highlighter. I've even like darkened up an outer corner of an eye with them. They're very small and they pack a punch when it comes to eyeshadows because the bristles are densely packed. So there's certainly a lot that you can do with these, but usually what I mainly use them for is for underneath the eye and the inner corner. Alright, so I have one more brush to show you that I think it's an absolute necessity, and then I have 4 extra nice to have ones per se. So my last essential brush is this right here. I only have it in one brand, even though I do have 2 of the same, and I have the Morphe ones. And the brush I'm talking about is the M506 from Morphe. You hear me using this brush in every single eyeshadow tutorial I've ever made, and that is because this is like a very small version of the first brush I showed you. It has the same shape, it's just like a fifth of the size. I'm gonna show you guys up close so you can see what I'm talking about. See, very similar to the first brush I showed you. And my favorite way to use this brush, and what I use it for the most, is to smoke out my lower lash line. So once I use a pencil brush to pack on, let's say, the dark pink shade I have underneath my eye, I use a brush like this one to smoke that out with a transition shade the same way I did on top of my eye. And I love it because it is such a soft little detail brush. It blends out my lower lash line so nicely, and it helps me to get my lower lash line to look as smoky as I can get the top of my eyes to look, but at a much slower scale. And then I've also found this one very useful when I want to go on my outer corner with a very richly pigmented deep shade, and I want to blend it out but not too far out. I will go on, pack it on with this one, and then just blend it into the crease ever so slightly so that it doesn't blow out the color as much as a bigger brush would do. So the M506 is honestly one of my favorite brushes to use ever. I use it in almost every eye tutorial, and I don't know what I did with my life before I had one of these, honestly. So I think it's safe to say that these are the 5 types of brushes that you need to create most eye looks that you see on the internet. Now I have a few other brushes that I really enjoy using that I wanted to share with you guys. I think the most important one is this one here. This is a Morphe M432, and it is a flat eyeshadow brush. I think the reason this brush was created was to like smoke out colors underneath your eye, kind of in the way that I use my pencil brush. As you can see, I don't use it for that. I use it for cream products. So this is the brush that I use to carve out my brows. I put concealer on this one and I carve out my eyebrows with it, and then I blend the concealer down. The main reason I wanted to include this brush in this video though is because I use it for cut creases. So whenever I do a cut crease, or a half cut crease is mostly what I use, and I need to carve out with concealer the crease of my eye, this is the brush that I use for that. So this is a really nice one to have to be precise with cream products. My second extra brush that is just nice to have because it simplifies things is a big all over shadow brush. This one's from Sephora collection, it's the number 12. And this one is nice to have because it covers a large surface, so it makes it very fast to pack on a base color all over your eyelid to set your primer, your concealer, or just to like mattify your eye before you start blending. I also love using this one here. This is the Sephora collection number 18 brush, and it is a really teeny tiny shader brush. To be honest, the main reason I use this one is for my inner corner. I think it's so precise for inner corner highlighting. You could also use it for detail work like smudging underneath your lower lashes, but mainly I use it for my inner corner work, and I really think it is the perfect size for it. And lastly, I have this double-ended brush from Huda right here. This is the Fender Blender, and it has a sponge tip side and also a rubber side. I find that this brush is very helpful whenever it comes to pigments, dual chromes, or extremely shimmery or glittery items, because usually those products I think go on really nicely with your finger. Brushes don't necessarily help a huge amount with most of them. So besides using your finger, this is the only brush that I love to use to be very detailed when it comes to glitters. For instance, today I'm using a Tati glitter. I went on with my finger most of the way, but your finger doesn't have the precision of a brush because it simply isn't as small. So I grabbed the rubber tip from this brush, dipped it into some glitter, and I was able to create a nice defined line between the glitter and my transition shades. So I find this to be a very useful little tool when you're dealing with pressed glitters or products like that don't get easily picked up with brushes, that are best applied with your fingers. But sometimes we just want to be a little precise in applying them, so you can do your finger all over like this area here, but to create that smooth little line right there, this would be your best friend. I'm going to do my best to link all of these brushes in the description box below. I think I'm going to link them by category in the order that I talked about them. If I think of other brushes that I have tried and liked that belong to these categories, then I might add them onto the list in the description box. So go through your collection and see what brushes you have that are similar to the shapes that I'm telling you guys about. And if you go back to any of my eye tutorials in the past, I promise you these are the brushes that I'm using. So these are the brushes that you need to be able to recreate those looks successfully. Sometimes I get comments from you that you're frustrated, that you don't know what you're doing wrong, that it just doesn't come out the same. Brushes play a huge part in perfecting your eye looks. So having a good set of brushes is going to definitely be really helpful in achieving beautiful eye looks. With that said, I am done with this video. This was a lot of talking, and I really hope that I was clear and not annoying about it, because I feel like I'm annoying myself just talking right now because I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Anyways, if you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Come back for tomorrow's video so you can see how I did this eye look. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you back in tomorrow's video. Bye!